Hi, this is John Aniston. I'm submitting my project for Project D, the Innovative Instructional Modality. For the modality that I'm looking at, I'm going to be using Edmodo as a tool for collaborative learning, the idea of collaboration and cooperation in the cloud. Now, I'm not looking at the entirety of what is possible with Edmodo. I'm really only paying attention to one part of it that I'm planning on using with my students, kind of a tool within the tool, so to speak. But to start with, we want to talk a little about the theoretical framework that it goes behind this idea of the collaborative learning that we'll be doing, where it kind of stems from parts of Vygotsky's work on social learning theory, where learners develop and construct knowledge by interacting socially. So we're going to be looking at how students can use Edmodo to socially interact with each other in order to help construct and develop knowledge, and where the more difficult tasks that can be set can be made possible by interacting with other possibly more skilled individuals, either with teachers or facilitators or with other learners, where students can be learning from each other to build knowledge, and teachers and instructors can help to facilitate that knowledge. It also uses elements from cooperative learning theory, for example, elements from Johnson and Johnson and Brown and Ciafetti are some examples. Things like group processing and individual accountability and positive interdependence can all be brought forward in this theoretical framework within Edmodo for collaborative and cooperative learning. Just a quick history of Edmodo. Edmodo was started in 2008 by Jeff O'Hara and Nick Borg, who both worked in education and in IT. What they noticed was that there was a kind of a need to connect students and teachers in kind of a new way, a way that was recognizable to students, something that was within their comfort zone, something that would look more like a social media site like Facebook, that would be user-friendly but edu-centric, kind of social media tool that extended the idea of education outside the classroom. They were noticing that they had to block a lot of websites in schools and such that were social media based, and they thought that would be a fantastic way to kind of get students involved in the idea of this tool to use outside of the normal learning environment of the classroom. They built Edmodo with teacher input and designed it to be familiar in layout and in function. So just to give a quick clue as to how that works, video here from Jeff and Nick about how Edmodo works.
We're always hearing from teachers that Edmodo is transforming the way they teach. When I got the idea for Edmodo, I was working with a school district in their IT department, and I was having to block a lot of social networking and video sites. That's when I felt that education really needed a place that it could call its own.
The original Edmodo office was actually Jeff's basement, and so while both continuing to work at our respective school districts, we would meet nights and weekends to listen to teacher feedback and continue to develop this product into what you see today. Everyone is connected everywhere they go now, except for within the classroom. When students and teachers would arrive within the walls of the school, they enter this void where the tools that connect them to one another don't exist anymore. And in a place where this resource sharing is so incredibly important because it hinges on a student's ability to learn, we absolutely knew this was a place for social media tools to exist, but adapted to meet the security and privacy concerns brought on by a school environment.
Nick and I have always said that we want to build tools that teachers want to use instead of have to use.
All of the features in Edmodo have been driven by teacher feedback and are put in place to make their lives easier. Edmodo has entirely been dependent upon the teaching community that has spread the word about its usefulness as a tool and actually taken that tool and used it in ways that it's improving student learning.
Working on Edmodo so far has been an incredible experience. We're excited to see where this goes because the possibilities are endless.
All right, so let's take a look at some of the strategies and uses we have for Edmodo as kind of a collaborative learning tool. One of the things that I'm looking forward to doing this year, kind of a first for me, since this is the first year I'm really using Edmodo this way, is kind of using it for project-based learning. One of the things that you do, of course, is that you can set your students up into groups. Obviously, I have mine set by periods, as you can see here. However, you can create smaller groups inside of each one. So say I click on my period 1 group, I have a test group set up, but you can set up smaller groups of students. So you click on that test group, and you're able to edit this test group and kind of add in students from your list of your groups from period 1, so I can make smaller groups. Now these smaller groups would be able at that point to go through and share information among each other. Since this is a social networking site, they're able to post to each other, they're able to comment to each other, they can post links. For example, I have a test account that I use to post this link for a pretend project that they might be working on. They can have all these links there and present and are always having them available. They can also use things like the calendar and planner to go through and to plan events and to plan assignment turn-in dates, and I can set those dates as the facilitator for every group, kind of set these dates that the students would then be able to work towards, dates and assessments and tasks that they would have to accomplish over the course of the project to kind of help them along and guide them and keep them on track, while at the same time allowing them to construct this knowledge by themselves. So we turn back to the home. Each student, of course, has a backpack. They have an ability to save files. They can link their Google Docs files. We're getting really big into using Google Docs in our district, and students are going to have access to a Google Docs file of their own, and they will be able to link that to Edmodo, and from that they can share and simultaneously create within Edmodo these Google documents that they can use to construct any projects that they may potentially be working on. So that is one possible use of this. That kind of leads to the whole idea of positive interdependence, where they can actually post notes and messages to each other, kind of helping each other along. If somebody's stuck or what have you, they'd be able to post in here. I'm able to do the same. So if I wanted to send a group message, hey, great link, keep it up. And I can send that to this group right there. And they can do the same thing to each other. They can't post privately because that's part of the safety feature of this, but they can post generally to each other, which is great. So being able to share Google Drive accounts, being able to, within Edmodo, being able to share their documents, being able to share links in a very dynamic fashion and asynchronously, so they can work on it on their own schedules, at home, at school, side by side, or whether they're not there, not side by side at all, working at different times, they can still work together collaboratively as a group. They can also work in collaborative writing, same thing with Google Docs. One of the things that we've done that we're working on this year is I have another group set up. This is a much larger group. This group's idea is just a list of RSS feeds from various science groups, and this is not just my class, but other science teachers as well are joined this group with their students, and we're going to start working on getting very large group conversations and discussions going about topics in science, topical, newsworthy, current, keeping things up like this so that students are actually able to interact with students outside of their own group, outside of their small group, or even their class. Students across our teams with different periods, and students in other classes, so that basically what we're hoping is kind of like an entire 8th grade science kind of thing. Not quite a MOOC, but kind of a middle school equivalent maybe of a MOOC at that point, where we'd be able to have them comment and read these links from outside, place comments on them, and comment to each other about these topics. So this is just some of what Edmodo allows us to do. All right, and finally, we want to get a little bit about some of the concerns about using something like Edmodo. We always have to look at potential downsides as well. One, of course, the availability of computers to all individuals. Not every student has a computer at home or internet access, so that's always a concern. Making sure that availability is there and that plenty of time is given so that students can change their schedules as necessary to get in there and be able to use these computers for this purpose. You also have different levels of comfort for students. Not all students are going to be equally comfortable with this, although while that can be a problem, it can allow for some peer instruction, which is also kind of beneficial. It goes back to that idea, of Vygotsky's, where you have students working together to construct knowledge. So it's, a plus and a minus potentially. It is very front-loaded for planning purposes. You do really have to go out of your way to properly plan, because insufficient planning can lead to ineffective use of time and a poor outcome for your project. The last thing you want is to spend a lot of time and have the whole thing fall in on you when your students, have a hard time trying to get things to work. So you really do need to plan ahead. Dillenberg did a good kind of paper on that idea of, making sure that everything's planned well ahead of time, beforehand. And it does require, of course, thorough integration into the classroom setting. You don't want to throw this at your students as something to use and have it the first time they use Edmodo. Edmodo should be kind of brought in right at the beginning of your class, so that by the time you get around to assigning a project, students are very well versed in it, they understand it, and have no problems with it. So that is, my Project D for innovative instructional modality. Thanks for listening. And of course, here is the bibliography of some of the citations that I had. Thank you very much.